There you go. So I'm here live with Ready Row USA and Sir Matthew Pinsent. Thank you so much for your time today.
A pleasure.
We just heard you speak this morning about the experience that you had with upgrading the coverage for the Royal Henley Regatta.
Yep.
Your trials and successes. One of the questions that I had about that was that, as you related to us all, the sport of rowing is a terrible spectator sport.
Wow. Okay. Good. Well, okay. Interesting
Right,
question.
right.
Interesting
And,
question.
We don't all have the budget that
Of course.
we have with your location.
Sure.
Is there something that we can do at a more moderate level to promote our sport during racing?
So I look at some of the streaming that other events do are very different budget, obviously understandably lower budget to what we have at our disposal. And to me, I think even to, go into live streaming is a good idea, or recording it, because I rode internationally and domestically from start to stop for 20 years, and there are probably half a dozen of my races from my whole career that I can find on YouTube now, not more. And so I think one of the things that has surprised us by Henley, and we didn't really expect it, but it's true for any streaming, is the value to the competitor to go back and watch stuff later on.
Yes.
And I would love to watch some of my Henley races from way back when, or be able to show my kids or whatever. I mean, they'd be bored, but I wouldn't be. But do you know what I mean? Like that bond that we all have with the sport is primarily, for our age group, driven by memory and emotion and pictures, I suppose, photo books, which now, it's sort of very dated already.
People putting their arms around each other at the end of the race.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's that sort of thing. Whereas now we have an opportunity to consign our history to a different medium entirely, and it can be very different. And I just think that's an important factor, really. Yeah.
So we were talking the other night about how NASCAR can take cars going around a very small track for hours and hours and turn it into a phenom that millions of people either attend or watch, and they do things like attach a heart rate monitor so they know what's happening with the athlete.
Yep.
And there's a lot of coverage about the maybe more gossipy qualities of what's happening in their lives. What do you think about getting up close and personal?
Should we head in that direction?
Yeah.
I think there is always room for us to modernize, and what we found is that we can shortcut some of this stuff, so we don't have to follow the same trajectory. We can sort of join in because it's now more cost effective. So suddenly, if we want to do heart rate, or we want to do fly on the wall following people in their training, people can film it on their own phone, or we can do heart rate. But if that's a direction we want to go in, ultimately we've got to make it the new word, shareable. Shareable. It's got to engage with it. You've got to find it interesting. You've got to make sure that people are going to say, look, have you seen this? Look at this. This was amazing. I'm going to watch this back. And that's also a challenge. But I think we can learn a lot from other sports and look at the way they do things. Like, look at some of the miking people up and hearing what they're going through in real time. That's something that rowing has dabbled with in the past. We could make that, a firm part of it.
He always has his camera on the bow for the head of the Charles, so that you can watch his progress. Yeah. So, from the athlete's point of view, would you have found that invasive, or something that you would have welcomed?
So the only parallel I can in all honesty, I would have probably said that's invasive. I don't want to do that. But I had an experience at Henley in, I think it was the second year of where we had the broadcast and the drone involved, and I was doing a race, early round race, taking the race with Mahe Drysdale, and the drone came out to film the race, and suddenly I realized it's like almost on his bow ball, and not only is it on his bow ball, but I can see the downdraft from the drone that's on the water.
Oh no.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So that's my immediate response is like, oh my God. Yeah, what are they doing? So fortunately he wins comfortably, and I came straight off the launch, and when he had paddled in, I went to find him and I said, look, I'm really sorry. That shouldn't have happened. It was too low. I'm really sorry if it upset you. And he said, oh no, are the pictures going to be good?
There you go.
And I thought, okay, you know, close, but that would have really, really bothered me if he'd been upset by it. And now what we find is at Henley, the competitors ask us, is the drone going to be up for our race? How close can it? Yes, yes. They want it. They want it. They want to have that quality of coverage. They want to go in that direction. And on occasion, if we do ask them, look, can you film some stuff of you know, in the boathouse before? It's now a sort of, in a way that was just unthinkable 20 years ago. It's just part of the fabric, and I think within reason we can ask quite a lot of the competitors. You know, we used to at Henley, we used to ask permission if we could put a GoPro on their boat.
Okay.
And then actually that became a bit of a formality, and now it's just like it's on the entry form.
Oh,
if we're gonna, if you're coming to our event,
do we have permission?
No, not even.
Oh.
We on occasion we will put a GoPro on your boat, full stop.
Oh,
And so and no one has said, how dare you? That's, you know,
I just sit on top.
you just like, right, this is what happens. The guy comes along, sticks it onto your boat, and you won't even, the competitor won't, I mean, you know, the crew are probably off warming up, and it just gets stepped on, and we take the footage, and it's just even 3 years ago I was really sensitive about that and saying, no, we've got to ask. And like now it's like, I don't think it's just now we make it as part of it's on the entry form. We're gonna publish that stuff. It's good for the sport.
Especially the younger the athletes are, most likely.
They're busy, and as soon as it's on there, they're busy fist pumping at the GoPro and giving it all their club signs, and you're like, okay, we need to point it in a direction where they don't see it so much now, you know. Yeah, so it you know, within reason, I think we should be innovating. We should be, you know, going, sort of throwing off the shackles and saying, look, we're going to try this, and that can be described to any part of rowing, whether it's broadcasting it or covering it, or streaming it. I think there's a whole thing around the format of racing, whether it's sprint racing, whether it's side by side, because we can see our DNA going back almost literally centuries. Certainly in Henley, it goes back 100 and whatever it is now, 80, 90. And we shouldn't be constrained by that. We should be very respectful of how we've got here. And I'm not suddenly suggesting that Henley's going to go to 500 meters in the night with fireworks or something, you know. but you know, I think we should not be afraid of saying, right, what are we doing that's different to 5 years ago? And if the answer is nothing, then I don't actually think that's a very good answer.
Oh, okay. Looking forward. Forward thinking,
well,
very much so. Then.
If we don't change, we run the risk. And I think you know, I think it's a fair enough challenge. If we don't change, we will slowly but surely wither.
So on that note, there is some thought that coastal rowing is the new entertaining, exciting, public turn of the sport.
Yeah.
Are you going to come back and give it a try?
No, because from what I hear from the people who have followed it, in coastal, the demands on the athlete are very different to being big and strong. Big and strong and powerful does not help in coastal.
Oh, I see. So agility and
flexibility, jumping in a boat and moving really quickly and rowing through really rough water and being technically really good. That is not me.
So you don't think that sounds like fun?
Well, no. For me, I'm totally up for innovation, and I think it's a valid criticism of our sport in general, from top to bottom, is that we don't innovate very readily, and we can. If you begin to have a sort of we are run by committee and we are run by consensus, and if you're not careful, that stifles innovation very quickly. Because people say, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. Why don't we? If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
And I think in all sorts of ways we could say, right, let's instead of standing around for 10 years talking about what we might do, let's try it. Try it. And I was, having a beer last night with a couple of sort of ex-internationals, and I was saying, okay, how about this as an idea that for the rowing world championships in the year after the Olympics, every 4 years we do something wacky.
Oh, like what?
Maybe everyone's talked about 1,000 meters, and the aficionados say no, it would completely change the sport, it would completely demand a different athlete, and it's not the direction we want to be going in. And my solution would be, let's try it for a year. Let's try it. So Worlds, we would say, with 7 years to go. Right, Worlds 2021. It's going to be a one-off. It's going to be 1,000 meters, and we're going to see
what happens.
Yeah. And then for Worlds 2025, we're not going to have a 6-lane format. We're going to have a knockout competition.
Oh.
Going to be one-on-one, and we're going to like a sort of tennis bracket. It's going to be knocking out all the way through to a gold medal. Why not? Let's have I know we've played with this before, but let's have a World Sprint Championships instead of a World 2,000 meter Championships.
Sure.
Let's have a what about mixed? What about mixed days?
I heard you speak about mixed.
Why?
No, why are you excited about mixed boats?
I don't know. I just think why is it a red line that somehow we haven't gone in that direction, and there are strides being made by other sports. You look at track and field now do mixed relays, swimming do mixed relays. There was another one, triathlon do mixed relays.
Sure. Yep.
And they are all doing relays where there is, a man competes, and then a woman does the leg, and then a man takes the baton, and and we're like, it's a whole lot easier than that in rowing.
You just put them
we
together.
Can do a mixed 8 where everybody rows in the same boat.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know what's not to constantly hark back to Henley, because this wasn't our idea, but we had a Forces Cup this year in the King's Cup, where we had armed forces crews come over, and they were mixed.
Oh yes, that was fascinating, and it was fun to watch.
It was really
Look, they've
cool.
done something new. Everybody focused on it. It wasn't our idea. Someone came to us and said, "Look, this is a century on from the Peace Regatta. Right.
We should mark this," and we were totally up for saying, "Look, this is great. We'll have whatever we would have come up with off our own bat. We'll have It probably wouldn't have been a standalone event, and yet the person coming saying, "No, I want to recreate an event, and here are the countries, and it should be mixed crews, and it should be. I'll get the buy-in from the different armed forces from around the world." And we were like, "Well, great. If you're willing to go and run with that." That sounds like a whole bunch of permissions that you need to get from a whole bunch of people sitting behind desks all around the world in various defence forces. You go for it. If this comes off, this will be great.
That was a shining star. That was fabulous success.
I wish I could, take ownership of it and say that was our idea or my idea. genuinely wasn't. But there's an example, and to the purist, you didn't look at those crews and go, "Oh, they're mixed."
No,
not
at
so
all.
you went, "That's fine."
What an exciting thing
What
to
an
do.
exciting
Right.
thing to do.
That's right.
And so, I don't know, the Pinsent plan would now say, okay, well, let's take that idea and run with it and say, regatta, World Championships 2025, we're going to have mixed dates.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Why
great.
not?
I was just in a mixed date this last fall at Head Race, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was a great lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm being asked for one more question.
Okay.
If you could describe the perfect stroke and what that means to you. That's a good reaction right there.
It won't be mine. Perfect stroke. Okay, so I mean, you can get very sort of technical and sort of numbers driven about angles and length of stroke and all of that. But to me, it all starts from the best practitioners in the world. It all starts with the immediate run in to the catch. Okay. The last bit of the boat running into when the blade is going to go into the water.
So the movement of the boat not being interrupted.
Of
right.
course.
Right.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. And that is something that I would always aim for, but never really achieve.
It's a challenge. It's difficult. Yeah, it's elusive.
It's elusive.
It's elusive.
And it's addictive, because when you do get it, it feels completely different.
And can I do that again?
Yes. And the usual answer is no. But it keeps you coming back. I think that's if I look at other sports, there is that sort of moment. Sports psychologists talk about everything being in slow motion and things slow down and sudden a flow, and you're in the moment, and everything, whether it's a moving ball sport or someone hitting a home run or a beautiful Federer backhand or someone hitting a golf ball sweetly, it's those are all very similar themes that keep people coming back.
Right.
That even at an amateur level, you can get.
It feeds us.
Yes.
Yes, it
Yes.
does. Well, thank you very much for your
pleasure.
time. I appreciate it, and it's been a delight speaking with you.
Pleasure.
And we'll be watching to see what the Henley does in the future for your innovations.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Great.